Welcome, wrestling fans. Welcome to Curtain Jerkin. As always, I am your host, Jacob Grondy. And I'm just going to jump right into it, guys. We have sad news off the top. Greg, the co-host of Main Event Marks, the YouTube channel that I'm a part of, that helped me out quite a bit. He has passed away at a young age. Obviously, this podcast is dedicated to him. He was a fan of my podcast before we started kind of collaborating and working together on the YouTube channel. I was a fan of his podcast. I enjoyed talking to him on Twitter, and this is the thing, is I never met him face to face, but I feel like I know him through his podcast, maybe his art, so to speak, his opinions. And that's what's cool about doing podcasting, even on, a level like this, is someone who may never even meet you face to face can really get to know you. I feel like I know some people through social media, and I've kind of rekindled friendships based on doing podcasts with people that I knew years ago. So I feel like Greg was, someone like that for me, and it's really hard to hear the news that one of our own passed away suddenly, sadly. So this podcast is dedicated to him. I'm going to keep going with the show because I think that's what he would like. I want to give him a show that he would enjoy. I want to give him a show that would maybe get him to suddenly send me a comment on Twitter about what I was talking about or anything like that. So we're just going to dive right into it with a bit of fun news. Jericho showing up in Vietnam Indy for VPW. He put some wrestlers over here, including the PCW Ultra Women's Champion Viva Van, never heard of her, and Sumiya Sakia, I've never heard of her, didn't mean to butcher those names if I did, inducting them into the VPW Hall of Fame. He has had the owner of this company on his podcast earlier this year to talk about starting a wrestling company. Vietnam, China, it seems like there's like all these budding wrestling companies kind of growing in that part of the world. I know like New Zealand to a lesser extent, just like I guess you would say the eastern side of the Pacific is growing with wrestling, and someone like Jericho going over is just a cool little story. Of course, he popped up in PWG earlier this year, but that's like an LA indie. That's like a cool, hip indie, where VPW, I never heard of it until Jericho showed up there, and I watch wrestling all the time and keep up with it day to day. So it's super cool to see him, do this kind of a thing. And I think it's something that he wouldn't be able to do if he was in the WWE. So, you got to kind of thank AEW for kind of bringing a superstar like Jericho all the way down into Vietnam in a weird way. Speaking of bringing superstars to places that you wouldn't expect, Kota Ibushi popped up in Noah. He shit on New Japan when they pushed him to the moon. Came back from injury, showed up in AEW, out of shape, kind of, not the shape that we expected him, not like this chiseled, jacked man like we were used to, bumping in tacks for no reason, riding bicycles, but now he showed up in Noah to challenge Marufuji on January 2nd. This is going to be a killer match and possibly might overshadow some matches in Wrestle Kingdom that's happening 2 days prior to January 2nd. This is big. I think Noah needed something like this. Nakajima left Noah recently. They've been putting their thoughts or their promotional push onto Jake Lee, someone that came from All Japan Pro Wrestling. So I feel like New Japan or Noah faithful needed something to sink their teeth into, and of course a legend like Marufuji, fresh off of getting kind of international praise for his match with Will Ospreay, is now going to wrestle Kota Ibushi. I think this is big for them. I think this is good for them. January 2nd is always a big show, or it seems to be always a big show for me at least. I love watching that show the past few years. It is kind of like their WrestleMania, their Wrestle Kingdom, a little bit before Wrestle Kingdom. And I'm excited about that. I think hopefully Kota Ibushi kind of turns his game face on for this one, because I feel like in AEW, he's in the what do they call it? The blood and guts matches. He's in these 8-man tags with Big Show and Jericho that kind of bring out the more comedic DDT side of him, where the Kota Ibushi I enjoy is that top guy, New Japan, Nakamura at Wrestle Kingdom, Okada at the G1 finals. That Kota Ibushi is my favorite Kota Ibushi, so I hope we see more of that in this match with Marufuji, which we will review in January. But of course, that's January. We're talking about December, and on, December 1st or 2nd or something, SmackDown happened. Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce welcome back Randy Orton. Both try to get him to sign to their respective shows, but the whole thing gets interrupted by Paul Heyman. Bloodline come out after Orton. LA Knight comes out to make the save. Goes after Solo Sikoa. Randy picks up both notebooks. He's holding one up, holding the other up. The crowd is going crazy. We don't know where he's going with, but he signs a SmackDown for the sole purpose of whooping the Bloodline's ass, the group that took him out in the first place. And then he RKOs Aldis for whatever reason out of nowhere. He's a wild card who just became a problem on SmackDown for the Bloodline. Starting out with the ladies, though, on the show. That was the main event. The ladies kicked things off. Bianca, Damage Control coming out without Bayley. Out comes Charlotte and Shotzi to even the odds. They all brawl. Not reinventing the WWE wheel here, but, good guys versus bad guys. Start things off in an interview, lead to a brawl, to a match that's happening later. We've seen it before, and we enjoy it. We watch all the time if you're listening to this show. Later on the night, Kairi Sane versus Bianca. They told Bayley to stay in the back. She didn't. She tried to help, ends up fucking it up like an overly drunk friend as a wingman. The tension is building here between Damage Control and Bayley. I like this build because, I'm thinking, there's rumors is that Sasha's coming back. If Bayley's going face, Becky's not really doing too much this whole year. She hasn't been really doing too much. We'll talk about that a little later. But you could do the 4 horsewomen versus Damage Control, popping up at a WrestleMania, popping up at a SummerSlam. I think that seems to be the something that I would be interested in. And comparing, SmackDown's women's division to Raw's women's division, I'm super interested in this. I don't know what you would do with Bianca other than just continuously push her to the moon like you have been doing all year. You could have her go up against Shotzi. You could have a match with Rhea. You could do lots of stuff here. You also have a Jade Cargill kind of laying in wait. Camille just became a free agent. So you can do a lot of stuff real quickly to help Bianca and still do this faction warfare that I'm kind of fantasy booking if a few loose ends get tied up between the 4 horsewomen and Damage Control. But jumping over to Logan Paul, he's cutting a promo. It's kind of mid, but then he speaks to Nick Aldis and has a U.S. title tournament. Tournament, sign me up. I love tournaments if you're listening to this show. Escobar, Dragon Lee, Karrion Kross, an NXT star. Who do I want it to be? Maybe Braun Breaker. He's been down there a while. Carmelo Hayes would be a fun entrant. Trick Williams seems to be super over. And he's got some size to him. I think you can bring him up. And he has that cool entrance where people say Trick during his theme song. He could be a star on SmackDown. So maybe those 3 would be my first 3 picks. But also in the tournament, Bobby Lashley, Grayson Waller, and Kevin Owens. And that gets Kevin Owens to come out. So I guess he is winning this thing. That would be my guess. Waller and Theory interrupt that. KO knocks out Theory, and that leads to a match between KO and Waller. Waller is good. I love the chanting Kobe before he does the through the legs elbow thing. But Swanton from Kevin Owens, 1, 2, no. Roll up, 1, 2, 3. Kevin Owens steals one. Someone in the tournament had a match, and that man is Bobby Lashley versus Butch. Later on in the show, they gave Butch a lot here. He diving, landing some kicks, going after Lashley's arm and hand. Vintage Pete Dunne, if you ask me. So I thought that was kind of cool, but he couldn't stop Bobby Lashley. Spear, 1, 2, 3. Bobby Lashley gets the victory. Joaquin Wilde versus Santos Escobar. Good to see DJZ get a singles match, much like Pete Dunne, on Fox. I'm still excited that SmackDown is on Fox. I know they're leaving Fox, but I'm going to miss it on Fox. I mean, that was kind of cool to see them talk about SmackDown on the NFL games, and it just kind of made SmackDown feel like a big deal, which, I mean, it kind of was a big deal. I mean, they hit those big ratings with The Rock twice, and then the Bloodline storyline that kind of, I feel like at least like maybe 6 to 18 months ago was like the talk of the town as far as the wrestling industry. Santos wins with a Phantom Driver, 1, 2, 3. Attacking him after the match, Dragon Lee comes out to stop the assault. Lucha Mask, Turtleneck, Jiku, Underground. Santos and him go at it. Dragon Lee gets the upper hand. I love Dragon Lee. I loved him in New Japan. I think AEW fucked up. They signed everyone under the moon but Dragon Lee for whatever reason. And now Dragon Lee, I think, is a bigger star than a lot of those guys that they ended up signing. So good on you, Dragon Lee. But that was SmackDown. Jumping over to Raw. CM Punk wasn't on the show. They played a video package that should have been played at the beginning of last week. WWE always does a good job putting together these video packages. They said he'll be on SmackDown, but I mean, he showed up, didn't do shit on Survivor Series. He cut a promo that kind of made him feel like he was on an island to himself. Yes, he said, like, everyone welcomed me with open arms. Well, not everybody. Some people did it, and that was enough to hook people into a storyline with Rollins. But sure, that's going to be an okay match. But that promo did not excite me at all. That was, I said, the worst CM Punk promo ever. And people thought that I was being hyperbolic. But I'm not. I cannot remember a worse CM Punk promo than that one he cut last week. He'll be on SmackDown. 5 years after they signed that contract with Fox. Fox wanted CM Punk at the beginning. Now they're finally getting him at the dying days of that contract. Seth with Adam Pearce in the back. Adam Pearce invited CM Punk to be on Raw next week. But Seth had to get ready for the main event. Jey Uso versus Seth Rollins. Some people in the crowd singing his song. Some people chanting CM Punk. Jey gets the crowd to believe in him, though. Uso splash, 1, 2, no. Superplex roll through Falcon Arrow. There's a rule in 2023. No one loses to the Falcon Arrow, Michinoku Driver, or Blue Thunder Bomb. So you know what's going to happen here. 1, 2. Jey Uso kicks out. Spear from Jey. 1, 2. Rollins kicks out. Buckle bomb from Rollins. Spear and Uso splash from Jey. 1, 2. The crowd on their feet. No. Pedigree stomp. 1, 2, 3. Seth Rollins gets the victory and retains the match. Great match. Probably my favorite match in December so far. After this match, Drew takes Rollins' head off, puts Jey through a table. He's being a dick. Sami Zayn calls him a dick, calls him out on it in person to start the show. And McIntyre continued to be a dick. Said if there was one person that deserved to be screwed of the bloodline, it's you, Sammy, because you were a part of them for so long. And I was like, well, that dick has a good point here. They get into it. Sammy versus Drew. Sammy won't quit. Drew won't quit whooping his ass. Blue Thunder, we know the rule. 1, 2, no. Blue Thunder Bomb gets no pins in the 2023 era of wrestling. Drew kicks out of the Blue Thunder Bomb, goes after the knee. Claymore, 1, 2, 3, gets the victory, and then whoops his ass a little more in the back for good measure. Nia Jax interrupts Becky Lynch. They still got beef. They have not known what to do with Becky all year, which makes me think that they want to sign Sasha and they want to do this storyline with Damage Control and the 4 Horsewomen. They haven't known what to do with her. They extended the Trish storyline. They brought her to NXT, and she's killed it in all those scenarios, in my opinion. So I'm gonna hold out hope that this Nia Jax Becky storyline will be good, but I don't know if it will be. There's a little past blood, if you will, with these two ladies, so we'll have to see. Nia versus Baszler, though, Later on the show, Nia wins. Becky just comes out, and then Nia leaves. So that doesn't really get me excited about this match. That was kind of a boring thing to do, have her come out and then her leave. I don't know. R-Truth fucking with the Judgment Day. That leads to a match somehow with the Creed brothers versus JD and Dom. I love the Creed brothers. They're strong. They're sloppy at times. They're always exciting. R-Truth out there. Dom gets slammed through a table. Brutus Ball, 1, 2, 3 to JD McDonough. Solid match. Nakamura fucking with Cody. I like where this is going. I mean, Cody, like that All-American guy. Nakamura, the spooky guy with the miss. I'm getting Hogan versus Taker vibes coming out of Survivor Series. I'm getting like Muta versus Sting. I like this. I like this early 90s kind of like maybe vibes that I'm getting from this storyline. DIY versus Imperium. Kaiser roll up 1, 2, 3 with the first fall. It's a 2 out of 3 falls match. Roll up from Gargano 1, 2, 3. Meet in the middle. 1, 2, 3. DIY get the victory. Not a bad feud. Okay match. Carter and Chance versus Knox and Natty. Carter and Chance get the victory. The 2023 London and Kendrick, they want gold. Chelsea Green comes up on the apron, ends up getting drop kicked off the apron. I would put the gold on these guys. I mean, they start out in NXT, they move their way up and up and up and up. You got that crossover appeal with the Ninja Warrior, winner in the tag team. Why not push her? Why not see what you can do with these guys? I think the tag division needs something, because after you had, Baszler and Ronda, I feel like I like that team. I feel like it was going somewhere there. There was a direction there. But ever since that, which was like 6 to 8 months ago, nothing's really happened since. But that's WWE. That's the week that wasn't WWE. They don't have a PLE in December, so you're just kind of watching week to week, seeing where they're going into the Rumble. Jumping over to AEW, before we get into the body of the show, Jeff Hardy recently stated, when I first came back to AEW, it was pretty exciting. I didn't know what was going to be happening in the near future, but I think the last time I was in the extreme dimension of y'all's podcast, whoever podcast he was talking about, I said that in WWE I felt like I was a ghost just walking around backstage. Honestly, man, I kind of still feel that way in AEW, just because of not being involved in something cool. I feel like there's something so special that was Jeff and Matt something that we, Jeff and Matt, have within us that could be really cool to bring out. I love Jeff, but I don't blame Tony for not doing anything with Jeff Hardy. He's kind of proved a pattern over the years of not being reliable. And you can't just keep bringing him out to a pop to wrestle, in these 8-man tags. I guess you could. I mean, you could have him in these 8-man tags week to week, but they can't really go as much as they used to be able to go. I don't know. So I mean, yeah, it's rough for Jeff Hardy nowadays. Maybe I can see him honestly going back to Impact after all these years, after they get released from AEW. But that's something that's kind of sad to talk about in AEW. Something that's really cool to talk about in AEW is the Continental Classic. Claudio versus Brody King, a match I didn't know I needed. Claudio does the big swing, locks in the sharpshooter, DVD that Shivani calls the Canadian Destroyer. Come on, Shivani. Brody with the pile driver, 1, 2, no. Big lariat, 1, 2, 3. Brody King gets 3 points. Garcia and Andrade. Garcia working snug, attacking the leg of Andrade. Flatliner from Andrade, 1, 2, 3. Andrade gets 3 points. Kingston versus Danielson. Danielson with the eye patch looking cool as ever. LaBelle lock, exploder, yes kicks. 5 minutes left. Kingston is in the ropes, or on the ropes if you're Danielson. But Psycho knee, 1, 2, 3. Danielson with a one-sided victory here against Kingston, 3 points. So that's the matches that happened from Rampage and Collision as far as the Continental Classic. But there was all kinds of things that happened on Rampage, like Ric Flair maybe putting his foot in his mouth a bit, saying that he wants all the 18 to 28-year-old women to meet him and Shivani at the hotel. I mean, come on. That is a silly thing that he's talking about. I know he's an old man, and I doubt that saying that really enticed any 18 to 28-year-old women. Who's kidding who at an AEW show? There's not that many 18 to 28-year-old women at that show. So, I think that there's much to do about nothing as far as that promo, but they did take that line out of the show. That if you just listen to the rest of the promo, it was heartfelt. It was nice. It got me, thinking about Sting's last match. It was all good. So, I wish I hadn't known about the non-edited version, because I thought the edited version was pretty good and classy. Going into the 8-man tag, we had Cassidy, Hook, Danhausen, and Trent versus Daddy Magic, Cool Hand, Evil Uno, and Reynolds with Jake Hager. 9 people out there. How much money are they paying Hager to stand out there? It was a match for the hat. Lots of random people out there, including Wheeler Yuta on commentary. Danhausen able to keep the hat from Hager and roll up Daddy Magic to get the win. 1, 2, 3. Don Callis family versus Jossie, Kit Sacklet, and Rennie D. Jossie been in the game since 2016, wrestled in Impact, GCW, and AEW since 2021. Sacklet, 2019, he had started, popped up in New South, which is a favorite indie of mine out of like the Alabama, Georgia area. So check them out. They got some good storylines. They're a fun indie to watch, fun indie to keep up with. Rennie D, been at it since 2003, 20-year veteran of the game, but they make short work of these chumps. The Callis family get the victory. Saraya, Ruby, and Anna Jay versus Sky Blue, Sheeta, and Chris Statlander. Random 6-lady tag or trios match. Saraya calling the cameraman a pervert. Some of these angles, I have to agree with her. Sloppy Code Blue. Ruby was involved. 1, 2, 3. The good guys get the victory. Brian Cage and the Workhorsemen versus Penta, Commander, and Vikingo. Cage is bleeding. They also edited out Vikingo not being able to dive over the rope with Commander and Penta. Cage bleeding the hard way. Solid match here. Vikingo does hit the 630 for the victory. And then we had Collision. A lot of wrestling on Collision, not a lot of promos and stuff. Kiera Hogan versus Abaddon, 2 women that we rarely see in AEW. I feel like Abaddon had such a cool look here, but her new look kind of makes her look kind of like Shannon Moore. She licks Hogan's face. DDT, 1, 2, 3. Lights go out. Julia Hart shows up. Lights go out again. The TBS champion is gone. The spooky one is getting spooked here. Abaddon's getting spooked. The Kingdom versus the Iron Savages. Bennett gets choke slammed on the apron. Taven dives to stop that move from happening. A little too late. Bronson then dives on Taven. Some good tag team wrestling going down here. Thought it was going to be a bit of a squash, but I underestimated the Iron Savages. Boulder with a moonsault after some odd gyrations to get up there. Taven dives again. Assisted neckbreaker. 1, 2, 3. Solid fucking match. Great match, honestly. Or pretty good for maybe the best match on the whole show. House of Black versus Daniels and Seidel. Always good to see Daniels and Seidel. Solid match. Spin kick to Daniels, 1, 2, 3. Lights go out for Danielson, but the literal lights go out. And then FTR's music hits face to face. House of Black tries to kind of lure FTR to join them, but it was all a ruse to kick them in the head. They beat down FTR, and I want to see this match. I want to see Buddy Matthews, Malachi Black, and FTR. I wanted to see it before this happened, and now I want to see it after it happened. Vikingo and Kip Sabian. Springboard Phoenix Splash from the middle rope from Vikingo. Tightrope corkscrew and big running double knee. 630, 1, 2, 3. As Vikingo puts on a bit of like a lucha demo. Like, remember you would go see like the skateboarders back in the day, you would see these skate demos. This seemed to me like a lucha demo from Vikingo here. So that was AEW. But let's jump into a little bit of New Japan news. I mean, we went to Noah, we went WWE, AEW, but let's talk a little bit about New Japan Pro Wrestling. And there's something looming in the air that's kind of scary to me as a New Japan fan. In January, Okada is a free agent. I hope New Japan throws all they can throw at this man to keep him there. He is the biggest star they have. He is the one guy that they have pushed for like a decade now over a lot of guys. So it would be extremely stupid for them to let him go, especially, since Nakamura and AJ walked, Kenny walked, Ibushi walked. You can not let this guy, who has been there for you in the biggest boom period that you guys probably ever had, entering in America in the mid-2010s, along with Bullet Club, where if you look at Bullet Club, they're all gone over here too. Tanahashi and Naito, they're getting older. Sonata experiment with the world title really didn't click with fans, I don't think, as much as they wanted it to. So having Okada leave would be a big gap that I think would take at least 5 years to fill and really hurt New Japan more than it would help AEW and more than it would help WWE. So I'm just saying that now, but let's jump into the World Tag League standings, as I have to do a little Googling, bringing it up here. I'm not personally watching the World Tag League standings, but we can look at it. I know these guys, I know these wrestlers. I'm going to watch the finals and I'm going to review the finals for you. But looking at A Block, Shane Hayes and Mikey Nichols, Team The Mighty Don't Kneel, former Team TM61 in NXT, they got 10 points. Ishii and Yano, 8 points, tied with Alex Coughlin and Gabe Kidd, a team that I really enjoyed this past year in New Japan, with 8 points as well. Then you have Shota Umino and Rin Narita with 6, tied with Great O'Connor and Hinare. Kind of like, I would say, the new generation of New Japan guys right there, all tied for like third place. Then you have Iwa and Kayamala. I'm butchering that shit, but there's some young lions with 4 points. Evil and Takahashi with 4 points. Bishop Khan and Taya Lono, the Gates of Agony from Ring of Honor, are all the way in last place. Why did they bring him in? I don't know. And then you got B Block, top of B Block, Lance Archer and Alex Zane. Pretty solid tag team, tied for first with Taichi and Uemura. Hikuleo and El Phantasmo tied with 8 points. So I think the story of this whole tag league is Alex Zane and Archer. I feel like underutilized guys from where they came from. Like Alex Zane in 2020 was doing 450s over moving cars in GCW, so much so that he got signed to NXT, let go from NXT, and then really hasn't had a chance to get footing anywhere else until he's in this World Tag League. Lance Archer, of course, AEW, they use him when they want to. They're kind of using him, if you ask me. Here he is, number 1 in this tag league. Taichi and Uemura, El Phantasmo. Hikuleo and El Phantasmo have had the title, so they're putting up there with guys who are the champions. Goto and Yoshihashi have also had the titles. They have 7 points. I guess also Atlantis Jr. and Sobrano Jr. from CMLL have 5 points, so there must have been a tie there. Bad Luck Fale and Jack Bonza, the guy we all learned about together, second to last in the B Block. Yuji Nagata and Minoru Suzuki have 2 points as well. Surprising that these legends aren't doing better. But that's New Japan. And I think that might be the show, guys. I mean, we talked about New Japan. We talked about WWE. We talked about Noah. We talked about AEW. We talked about CM Punk. We talked about Kota Ibushi, Chris Jericho. We talked about VPW. I love pro wrestling, guys. Thanks for allowing me to remind myself of that. Thanks for listening to me. And subscribe to the Main Event Marks YouTube channel. We are almost monetized. And that's something that would give me a lot of pride to get monetized, make a little money for doing what I'm doing here every week. And it would kind of be a cool thing to honor Greg with a little bit of money going his family's way. Thanks a lot for listening to me. Fly high. I'm out.